Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the First Place podcast. I'm so excited to be recording this Friday. It's a rainy day. Yes, I am literally recording this on the day I'm supposed to post it. But whatever, I like to do that. So thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be bringing you right into my therapy sessions because we're going to be talking about trauma and hyper-independence. I'm excited to kind of explore this topic. So I more and more have been thinking about going into the field of psychology and studying that because it's just so interesting to me how people develop these different coping mechanisms or, just responses to what they've been through, and kind of it's so interesting how the brain automatically is always trying to protect itself, and the result of that, how that shows up in people, is so fascinating to me. So I've done a little research here on the sides, and I'm just gonna share my experience, my trauma, and if you relate, I am wishing you well. If you don't, that is also amazing. So I had a therapy session yesterday, and something that we talked about was how it's so difficult for me to reach out to people for help. Like even with things that aren't a big deal, like, can you help me bring the groceries in? It's so difficult because for some reason I feel like if I ask for help that I'm failing, like that I'm admitting to that person that I can't do it on my own. And logically, right, I know that that's not true. Logically, my brain knows that, asking for help to carry in the groceries is not, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, it's just such a normal response for me. Like it's not even like logical, it's emotional. It's an emotional response. That I'm just like, no, why would I do that? Why would I do that? I can do this on my own. And I'm learning to retrain my brain and try to kind of take a step back and be like, yeah, you can do this on your own, but why? Like, why are you choosing that, to go through this alone, to isolate, to do that on your own? So that was a big topic that we as in me and my therapist, just barely grazed the surface of. So I wanted to do some research on it. So I have all these notes of what hyperindependence is, and it's crazy learning about this because I'm like, whoa, I have been hyper-independent my whole life. And I just always thought, I struggle reaching out for help. Like, it's difficult for me to ask for help. But I didn't really dive any deeper into that. And it's just like, when you are interested in something like that and you start to really look deeper into, okay, why don't you ask for help? What feelings do you feel before asking for help when you assess the situation? You're like, do I need help? Like, it's so interesting when you start asking yourself those deeper questions, how many doors it opens and unlocks for you. So yeah, let's talk about it. Hyper-independence is an individual who attempts to be fully independent in all things, even when it's not helpful to do so, or when they truly do need help or support from others. So I'm trying to think of an example that's not too deep to share online. Okay, this is a good example. So when I was in high school, and even middle school too, I was someone that struggled with school, and not in the way of like socially, just in the way that the actual school work. I always felt like I was just getting by. Like, I wasn't failing, but I wasn't doing great either. And I think that had a few different factors. One of them is that I do have ADHD, and I had undiagnosed ADHD. So it was difficult for me to actually like focus in the classroom. But also, even when I noticed I was struggling, instead of asking, my parents, oh, can I have some help? Or even like classmates, oh, can you show me how to do this? What I would do is I just skate by with my grades. And in my head, I would say, oh, well, I'm a social person. Like, I'm involved in these clubs and stuff, and I'm just not good at school. I'm just not good at it. Well, if I reached out and accessed, resources like the guidance counselor, tutors, things like that, then I would probably have had better grades and had a better learning experience. But it was difficult. It was difficult for me, and it didn't even really cross my mind as an option. Like, I developed this hyper independence as a trauma response from childhood. And it's not even like an option to ask for help. That's how I felt. Because I was worried, what are people going to think? I failed. There's going to be like reactiveness and it's just so interesting looking back, knowing that I have this as a response. So that's an example, a little bit about what we're talking about. And I challenge you to ask yourself if you relate to this. I think a lot of people probably do, because it makes sense, your brain is trying to protect you from whatever has happened in your childhood. So like for me, I think I got the message from my parents, and this is just my truth, but that they were unavailable and not able to help me in certain ways, or they were enduring a lot of stress themselves. So I needed to internalize my problems because I didn't want to upset them. I didn't want to add to their stress. So even if those weren't the messages that they were intentionally putting out, those were the messages that I received as a child. So I internalized that, and I in my head thought I needed to do everything by myself. And this is something that is kind of, like I said, a new topic I'm diving into. So I'm realizing there's a lot of things in my adult life that I am neglecting to reach out for help, locate those resources and actually make my experience better, instead of just fully thinking, oh, I'm a failure, I'm lazy, those types of negative feelings about it. My roommate shared a really cool TikTok with me, and hopefully TikTok doesn't get banned. Switching gears a little, but I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to TikTok being banned, but I was glad she shared this video with me. It was this woman talking about, and she's a gardener, and she was talking about how she plants seeds all the time, and sometimes they don't grow. And what does she think about those seeds? She thinks, oh, well, what environment were they in? Did they get enough sunlight? Did they get enough water? Is it the right soil for them? She doesn't think, oh, they're lazy. Oh, they're just bad seeds. And she related that back to how we view ourselves. And I don't know why that resonated with me so much, because so often I would kind of shame my actions, like, oh, well, you're just not doing it right. Like, and really what I should be saying to myself is, okay, what was your environment like? What help did you get? What resources did you get? What we really should be asking ourselves is, what didn't you get that you needed in that situation? What didn't you get? and go from there and learn about the experience instead of just writing it off and being like, oh, I'm lazy. Oh, you know, I didn't try hard enough. So I thought that was a really good analogy for growth and for kind of how we view ourselves and not to be too hard on ourselves with that sort of thing. So I wanted to share that because I've already told like everyone I know about that video. I just think it's really cool. So if you are relating to any of the hyper independent stuff, or if you think, oh, there's definitely been times that I've experienced thoughts like similar to that or actions similar to that, I just want to share with you some of the signs of hyper independence. So, because I do think more people are doing it, or not doing it, but more people have this trauma response than they think. So, the first one is overachieving. So, this is committing to too many projects, overloading your plate, um, you know, saying, oh, I can do an appointment here, but I also, am going to see friends later, and then I'm going to go to my sister's, and then I'm going to, like, overloading your plate, thinking, oh, you can do it all. You can say yes to everything. This is something I'm definitely working on because it's, it's hard to sometimes put up those boundaries and like, oh no, I need time to rest. I need time to be creative, to just alone time, or, it can be difficult. So that's the number one sign. Number two, refusing to delegate or ask for help. So this is someone who struggles to ask for help, especially when they are overwhelmed. Um, I can give you some good examples at work. I work in a grocery store, and delegating tasks is a big part of our job. And a lot of times I just think, oh, well, I'll just do that. I'll just do that because it's easier, because I know that I will get it done the way it's supposed to be done. I know that it will be done at all. But really what's going on is I am struggling to ask for help. I'm struggling to delegate. So this could be something that maybe affects you in your work life and your home life. If you're refusing to delegate chores, or you're just taking on the workload for yourself even when you are overwhelmed and you could use a hand. The next one we have is guardedness in relationships. This was a sign that actually surprised me, because I always thought that I was guarded in relationships for other reasons. And I'm learning this is actually a part of a trauma response. This is in all types of relationships, in romantic relationships, friendships. It's when someone struggles to let down their walls, to be vulnerable. This is definitely something that I experience. It's hard for me to make new friends on a deep level, because I feel like it's gonna be a whole new set of things I have to explain to them, and I am hesitant to trust people, and that's why I have, I think, a few close friends and not really a lot of close friends right now. And just throughout my life, I usually, like, I'll pick a few people that are really, like, in my inner circle, and those people, like, know everything. Like, I'm kind of, I pour myself out to them, in a sense, and they do the same, and that builds trust. But it also, I think I have those relationships for so long, those friendships for so long, because they are not rejecting me when I'm pouring myself out, when I'm being vulnerable and letting those walls down. So it's scary to, because it's such a struggle for me to let those guards down, that I can't do it with everyone. Like, I think to myself, it takes up so much energy that if I can't do it for everyone, I'm just going to do it for these few special people. Otherwise, I would be keeping my guard up all the time. And that's not a way I want to live. I want to, make connections and have friendships and be fulfilled. So I would definitely relate to that. When it comes to romantic relationships, I have never been in a romantic relationship, but I can definitely say that when I'm in the early stages of talking to a guy, it is difficult for me to, like, I always think about what I should be saying instead of actually my genuine response. It's hard for me to kind of be vulnerable in that sense. Like, automatically I'm just like, oh, what do they want to hear? What do they want to hear? And I think that's a red flag from me that I'm trying to work on. But I certainly don't want to jump into any relationships when I know I have this level of self-work to be doing. The next few signs are interesting. Secretiveness is a common trait. So this is when an individual keeps to themselves, is kind of reclusive, to share personal information that could be used against them. And yeah, I think this is interesting because, again, it goes along with mistrusting or being afraid to trust other people. And this could be based off of past experiences. It could be with your parents. It could be one experience that happened that you might not even remember, that your brain blocked out. Sometimes I think about if there's been any times that my brain has, like, blocked out a memory that I just have no idea. And sometimes that freaks me out. I don't know if anyone else ever thinks about that, but I guess to be determined in therapy. So the next we have is mistrust of others. I feel like this one kind of goes without saying. I've been mentioning it this whole podcast, but worrying that others will let you down or betray your trust. This can be stemmed from when you were betrayed in your childhood. It could be when you were betrayed in your early adulthood. I mean, wherever you are in life, it makes sense. And it's interesting too, because I think that I'm also a people pleaser. So, which is kind of conflicting to some of these, because, like, I don't trust others, but yet they have no idea that I don't trust them. Like, because I'm just trying to, again, put on a facade for people. And that's kind of how my brain has developed as a way to protect itself, is to put on a facade, a happy face, to not cause commotion, to not cause conflict. And it's so interesting. So this is definitely something I'm trying to uncover about myself. So now this one was a very interesting sign, and it's stress or burnout. So a lot of people encounter stress or burnout for numerous reasons, but burnout actually has its own, whole plethora of symptoms. And I think more of us are feeling it than we think, including me at many times. I can identify many times in my life that I was feeling symptoms of burnout that I didn't even know. Like, it's easier to blame some of these symptoms on, oh, it's just, colds are going around, or, yeah, this is just a really stressful time. And it's like, okay, but also you're starting to fizzle out. You're starting to fizzle out, and acknowledge it, because otherwise it doesn't just go away. Like, you gotta rest, take care of yourself, which is something I'm always trying to tell myself is you got to rest. So, symptoms of burnout: high blood pressure, gastrointestinal issues, poor immune function. So this would be like if you're getting sick all the time. Reoccurring headaches, sleep issues, concentration issues, depressed mood or feeling worthless, suicidal ideation, fatigue. So this is a common thing in our society. I think partially because, especially like in America, it's so like go go go. You have to keep going. It's very like jam pack your schedule. You know, it's just focused. Our society and the lifestyle is focused on productivity and not on rest, and it's just not really, we're not in a place right now, from in my opinion, that we are we're not in a place right now, in my opinion, that we are a well-rounded society. In the sense that expectations and just trying to live are so stressful. We're not focused on getting enough sleep, staying home when you're sick, because money has to be made. How are you going to feed your kids? How are you going to pay rent? How are you going to, and it's so easy for us to get caught in that loop. Even if you don't experience hyper independence, you've definitely felt burnout many times in your life. There's no way that you haven't. So it's okay to rest. I'm telling you. I am telling you, and I'm telling myself when I say this. It's okay to rest. Your body needs rest to thrive and to be sustainable in the long term. So that is something that is really interesting. And I'm also learning a lot about what rest looks like, because in my head, I always picture rest as me sleeping in my bed. Like, and that's all I picture it as. But if you're laying in your bed and you're scrolling on TikTok for hours, which I do all the time, then are you really resting? Because your body may be resting. Well, even that's debatable, but your mind isn't resting. And there's a lot of things online now that outline kind of what are some helpful ways to rest, like coloring, like meditating, going for a walk even. Like, you can still be restful doing other activities that are kind of more low key. And of course you can just lay in your bed and rest if that's what you want to do. But I think there's a lot of different creative ways that we can all rest, and I, for one, want to incorporate more of those ways into my life. The final sign of hyperindependence that I found was a dislike of neediness. And so this is when someone may resent or resist others for relying on them. I think I can relate to this in the romantic relationship sense. Even when I'm scrolling on Hinge and I'm seeing these guys, if there is even an ounce of like immaturity or like they're gonna be heavily relying on me or like clingy, I hate that so much. And I've always wondered why I had such a harsh response to that. Like, anytime I start to observe or notice signs that lead to a super needy person, clingy, I can't do it. Like, I know people talk about icks. It's like the strongest ick I've ever had. And I don't know, I do want to explore that a little bit more, because is that just me like projecting onto him, like my struggles to rely on other people, so when he's would be relying on me, I like hate it? I don't know. But again, it's not really something that I struggle with my personal relationships, like or like friendships. When it comes to people in my inner circle, I'm like, please rely on me. Like, I'm always here. Like, I'll go to the ends of the earth for you. Like, really. But when I am looking for a romantic relationship, it's so, like, I can't do it. I can't do neediness. I don't know if that's just watching my parents growing up or what, but yeah, more on that topic later when I dive deeper into that with my therapist. This all being said, I am a big proponent of therapy, or even just journaling. There's also all different types of therapy. I think people don't really realize that. There's not just talk therapy, which is the therapy that I am going to, that I am experiencing. But there's all different types. Like, there's like what is it, EMDR, which I think has to do with like PTSD, and I think it's like something to do with, actually my mom's doing it, but it's like there's a light that kind of goes across your eyes, and it's like, I don't know, people say it's really, really, really effective, so maybe one day I'll try that. But there's so many different types. There's also like for kids there's like play therapy. I'm sure for adults there's a similar one to that. So if you're interested in personal growth and figuring out kind of why your brain works the way it does, why you make certain actions, or why you make certain even thoughts about others or yourself, I would strongly suggest therapy. I know we're in a shortage of therapists because everybody needs one nowadays. Well, they've always needed one, but there just was less people seeking them. So with this all being said, take care of yourself today. Ask yourself some thought-provoking questions, some deep questions. Journal, do something for your mental health today. And if you relate to being hyper-independent, then dive into that with me because I'm really sharing my growth and experience in real time. So I'm right there with you. It's hard every day, but it's okay. It's okay that it's hard, and we'll get through it together. Okay, I'll talk to you guys next Friday, next week. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. Woo! Love you guys. Bye.